Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Captain John Sprocket from The Cog is Dead, and today I'm bringing something to you that's a little bit different. This is a new cooking series that my wife and I are doing. Why? Well, just because we love to cook, and we wanted to share some of the recipes that we like to make with you so you can make them in your own home. So today, we're going to be making the Captain's Calzones. Come along with us right now on Cooking with Captain Sprocket.
Let's get cooking.
So, one thing that I love making is pizza. I love deep dish pizza, New York style pizza, and I guess other pizza related things like calzones. And I've made calzones off and on over the years and tried different recipes, and they were always okay, but recently I tried calzones using a dough recipe I recently discovered, and I don't think it's an exaggeration to say they were the best calzones I've ever made. I was actually shocked that they were as good as they were, and I think everyone else that tried them kind of felt the same way. What do you think, Audra?
Delicious.
So I'm going to show you how to make these calzones. It all comes down to this dough, and I'll save the dough recipe for its own video because this dough is one that I use for lots of pizza, so you can come back to that for all the other pizza-related recipes. But for now, let me jump in and show you guys how to make these calzones. Let's do it. This is a quick, easy dough recipe that only takes about an hour to make, so you can make it on a busy work night or if you just want a quick pizza anytime. And it's one of my favorites. I use it for pizza, for deep dish, for calzones, and all sorts of things. It's only a few simple ingredients and one secret ingredient that makes it really good. And the secret ingredient is... I'm using Foster's just because that's the first one I tried when I made this, and I really like the way it turned out. But as far as I know, you can use just about any beer, so try whatever you like. But this is what I'm going to use, and the size of this can is perfect because it makes 3 pizzas if you want it. So if you're a beer drinker, you can just finish the rest of the can, I guess. But if not, you can cover it with one of these can lid savers and save it in the fridge for later.
And I just want to pause here for a second to mention that right after I made this batch of dough, I put the can of beer in the fridge, and it was a little too close to the front edge of the shelf. So when I opened the fridge again a few minutes later, the can fell out and spilled about a cup of beer all over the kitchen floor. So I actually only got to make 2 batches of dough with this can instead of 3.
That's life.
So let's go ahead and start heating the beer.
To make this dough, you're going to need just a little less than 1 cup of beer, and as you'll notice, I had to wait for the suds to go down, and that's one nice thing about saving more beer for later, is once it's flat, you can just pour it without having to wait. But I had to wait, and once it finally went down, that looks like about enough, you're going to take it and put it into a small saucepan and heat it on low heat until it reaches 98 degrees. So while the beer's warming up, let's go ahead and mix our other ingredients. Into a food processor, add 2 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. You can also mix this by hand in a bowl, it'll just take a little longer. Next, add 1 teaspoon of salt, 1½ teaspoons of sugar, 1 packet of instant yeast, and 1½ tablespoons of olive oil. And that's really all you need for the dough, but if you want to add a little more flavor, you can add things to taste like basil, oregano, and garlic powder. And just add these to taste.
That's a lot of garlic.
That's what keeps me alive.
All right, now we're ready to mix it and add the beer. Start the food processor and let your ingredients start mixing together, and then very slowly start adding in the beer. Just a nice slow trickle as it all gradually incorporates. You don't need to rush it. You want to make sure everything mixes nice and evenly. And just let it keep mixing until it forms a dough and gets nice and shaggy.
She call me Mr. Bombastic, tell me fantastic.
All right, I think that's shaggy enough, so go ahead and turn off the food processor. And this time the dough came out a little bit drier than usual, but that's okay. You can always add a little bit more liquid and work with it. Put some flour on the surface of your work area and go ahead and transfer the dough onto your floured surface. Now you're gonna wanna knead your dough for about a minute. Of course, this was a little dry, so I got a little bit of water and mixed it in just to help get it to the right consistency. And let me apologize for these shots being a little out of focus. This is my first time trying one of these cooking videos, and I think we're gonna change the format up in the future, but the first few shots of this section are a little blurry, so sorry about that. All right, this is looking much better. So once you've finished kneading, go ahead and roll your dough into a ball and then put a little more flour on your surface and on your dough and cover it with a damp paper towel and let it rest for 15 minutes.
15 minutes. 15 minutes?
I recommend using this time to wash any dishes you've gotten dirty so far and preheating your oven. Now, before I turn on the oven, I'm gonna put my pizza steel in to get it nice and hot. If you don't have a pizza steel, you could use a large upside down cast iron skillet. You just need something that's gonna help transfer extra heat to the bottom of the pan and get the crust nice and cooked thoroughly on the underside. So once you get that in there, set your oven to 550 degrees and preheat. Once our dough's had time to rest, uncover it, then take a knife and cut it into 4 equally sized pieces to make our 4 calzones and roll those into balls. And it was at this point I finally noticed the camera was out of focus and fixed it. Okay, so make sure your dough balls are nice and smooth and even, then add a little flour to your surface and flour to your rolling pin so nothing sticks, and begin rolling them out. Now obviously I've sped up the footage here, but there's no need to rush, just take your time with it, try to get this as even and smooth as possible. We're aiming to get maybe about a 10-inch circle, and it doesn't have to be exact, doesn't have to be a perfect circle, but you want it to be as circular as you possibly can get it because it'll make it much easier to fold it into a calzone. Once all 4 circles of dough were rolled out, I went ahead and put them on some plates just for safekeeping, and now it's time to add our fillings. So we're gonna put in some ricotta cheese, garlic cheddar cheese curds. We found these at Aldi and they are amazing. They taste like little bites of cheesy garlic bread. Then some thick sliced pepperoni, also from Aldi. You can also use turkey pepperoni if you want it a little less greasy. This is Audra's preference. A mix of shredded mozzarella and provolone, some pieces of crumbled bacon, a little bit of dried basil, and we'll start things off with a base layer of sliced Muenster cheese. So flour the surface of your work area once again so nothing sticks, and transfer the circles of dough from the plates onto your counter or work surface. Now on the bottom half of the dough circle, place 2 slices of Muenster cheese. You can see I broke one in half diagonally so it could fit the shape of the circle better. And of course we're only putting things on the bottom half of the circle so we can fold the top half down onto it later. Next, spread on a nice even layer of ricotta cheese. Make sure you get plenty in there, really use that space.
Cheese.
Next, sprinkle on some basil. Now load it with cheese curds.
Cheese.
Yeah, cheese.
A generous amount of bacon bits, a couple rows of thick sliced pepperoni, and top it all off with mozzarella and provolone.
I bet you want that cheese.
Next, whisk 1 egg for the egg wash. Now, using your clean fingertips, I would hope you've been washing your hands throughout this process, coat the outer rim of the dough with egg wash. Now, take the top half of the dough and gently fold it over the top of the calzone. Be very careful not to tear. You may be able to stretch slightly, but only a little bit, as you'll see here as I try to make sure all the edges match up, and I stretch and pull just a little bit, and then I seal it all the way around. After that, I crimp the edges to the best of my ability. I'm just kind of turning and poking it and trying to get it all tucked in, and Audra's stealing a piece of cheese off the counter. And once they're all folded up, place them on a pizza pan that's lined with non-stick foil and sprayed with olive oil. Now it's time to brush the calzones with egg wash, and when you're doing this, try to really thoroughly coat them all the way. It's gonna really help that crust. And of course, I forgot to film the last step, but after this, brush them with melted butter and grated Parmesan. Now open up your oven and stand back because 550 is really hot and you don't want to get hit in the face with that blast of heat. Then take the tray of calzones and place it centered on the pizza rack, shut the door, and bake for about 7 to 9 minutes, give or take, but just keep an eye on them until they're nice and golden brown like this. Then go ahead and open up that oven, again watch out for that heat, and take out these beautiful calzones, hot and steaming fresh from the oven, the Captain's Calzones.
All right, and here we are, the finished product. This is the Captain's Calzone. I think they turned out pretty good. It's only the second time I've made them, but I was really happy with the way they turned out the first time, so I assume they're gonna be good this time as well. So let's cut in and see what we got here. All right. Oh yeah, look at that. We got the cheese curds all nice and melted. Got the thick pepperoni. It's time for a taste test. Got that marinara right here. Hang on one second. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's every bit as good as I remember from the first time. That dough has a great flavor. The beer has this nice yeastiness to it. The cheese curds are something I've never seen anyone do in any kind of a recipe like this. We just found them at Aldi and decided to try putting them in here, and they add like a nice just chew to it. So they have cheesiness, kind of a garlic bread flavor. It's just a whole extra element. I'm not a chef, I'm just a musician, so I don't know what I'm doing, but these turned out right. So feel free to try making the Captain's Calzones and let me know what you guys think. And before we decide what's going to be the next recipe for the next video, I'm going to go check in with Audra's brother Joel and see if these passed the Joel test. And my brother-in-law Joel just finished his up. Let me see, does it pass the Joel test?
Well, I tell you what, there's nothing left to be seen of it, so either mysteriously disappeared or I guzzled that thing down. I'll let you decide.
So it passed.
Joel test passed.
All right, so this is how we're going to decide what we are cooking next time. Audra came up with this idea to use this crane machine, so I have no idea which recipes in here. These all have recipes that we like to cook regularly, and I will pick one and find out which one will be the topic of the next video. Assuming my skills are all right. Let's see. Which one should I go? I think I got a good shot at getting the green one. Nope, let's try that again. Coin number 2. I'm gonna go for it again. All right, I think that's pretty good. Oh, double tap, that worked. Woo! All right, so this is the winner. Oh, snap. Next time we will be making Audra's pork Hamburg steak. This is inspired by a Japanese Hamburg steak recipe, but she modified it to include all kinds of other little things like feta, and I don't know, it's really good. It goes really well with ramen or rice. So tune in next time. Thanks so much for watching this episode. And if you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments if you have recipes that you might like to see us try out in the future, and I'll see what works, because Audra and I love to cook. So thanks so much for joining us, and see you next time on Cooking with Captain Sprocket.
That's insane!
You're in.